Hello, welcome back to the series of A Brief Talk. And in this next episode, I'll be talking about the topic called saturation. Just as it is a phenomena used widely in chemistry, I just thought that it can be used widely in our day-to-day lives as well. So, I'll be talking briefly about it. Let's begin. When they say too much of something is not good, I think they're actually trying to say that too much of something is not good because that something, I don't know, whatever it can be, that something starts working against you when it gets beyond its limit. Let's take an example. Let's assume that we have too much of money in our pockets. Well, there are several things that happen when we have too much in our pockets. The first and foremost possibility is very easy. We might get robbed by someone who doesn't have a single penny in his pocket. Second one, we don't actually know what to do with that much of money. So we just waste it on addiction and what not. Like, let's not talk about those businesses because that's not the topic for the day. The same goes out with fame. When you get too much of fame, you become famous in public. Like, you go anywhere on the street, people are running behind you for your photograph, and all that stuff. After one point of time, when that fame takes over your head, you just can't take it anymore. You just can't simply deal with people anymore. So what do you get into? Well, you get into public violence. Then you become angry, you become frustrated with people, you don't want to see people's face anymore. You get in drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, and whatnot. Well, that also counts as a suicidal mission. Anyway, so yeah, these things are really a poison. Most of the times they are poison, not all the times. Then having too much friends is also a poison, I think. Like, that is also not something good, because when you get saturated with too many people around you and those people, after one point of time you don't know how to deal with them, because each personality is a different personality and you can't please everybody. You just cannot. And too much of something good is also not good either. I can say that because even in love, even in friendship, you give away all that you have. You just give in 100%, 100% of yours. And what happens usually is you don't get it back. You don't get it returned to you. So what you do is go into frustration. Again, start with addictions, and this loop is really a vicious cycle. You just can't get over that loop. You break into that loop, but most of the time we don't know how to break out of that loop, and we get stuck in the loop till the end. So yeah, that is kind of a tragedy. We can talk about saturation by using two examples that we use almost daily in our lives. Let's say we have a glass of water and we take sugar into it. We dissolve it. It gets dissolved. You do it twice, thrice, 4 times, 5 times, 10 times until it gets saturated. That means normally the sugar cannot dissolve anymore in the water. It just settles down. Even if you want it to, it just settles down. So what do? You heat the water such that more sugar gets dissolved. You heat it, then you start again dissolving the sugar. This goes on and on until the state of supersaturation comes into picture. That means you just cannot dissolve that sugar into hot water anymore, and that's the end point, because after that the water evaporates and again the sugar comes up. Like, there is no use of that entire process, because after one point of time you just cannot dissolve the sugar. That's what with saturation is. Let's take an example of a pressure cooker. Yeah, we cook food in the pressure cooker, but the scene is, after 3-4 whistles of pressure cooker, if you don't switch off the gas, then the pressure builds up inside. It builds up inside and keeps on building until the pressure cooker might respond you by just blowing the whistle off, not the sound, blowing the entire whistle off, damaging the rupture disc, which is a safety feature in the pressure cooker. Or if the vessel is weak, it might just burst, you know, who knows. Then really, let's talk about then shopping saturation. I think I talked about this earlier in my previous video. Yeah, so you better, you all know, if you shop too much, then you might end up transforming your house into a go down, which is not very feasible, because in a go down, you know what happens with the raw stocks and all that stuff. The stock gets rotten. So like having too much in your house doesn't help you at all. It is not going to help you. Then the same goes with work saturation. I can tell you this example really finely. I'll give you my own example. Some days ago, I was working. I've been working too much all this time, all these 30, 31 days, 32 days. What happened is, I had a submission process. I had some experiments to submit. I submitted them, and my teacher replied me on mail that, like, really nice, good work, very good work. I like that compliment. And first of all, like, due to all this submission work, I was really in sleep all the time. Even though I was awake, I was half the time I was in sleep. So he asked about admission. What about further admissions in future? So what I did is I responded in such a way that I thought it was submission. So I just mistaken the word admission for submission, and I responded the mail. But after a few moments, I thought, let's read the mails again. I read the mail, I realized my mistake, and then I corrected immediately. So that's what happened with me. Because of doing too much work, I committed some silly mistake while in work. So I decided to have some break, to slow down, because I was going too fast, too hard, and I want to go too long, but my saturation point came along. And there's one more thing, that thought saturation. Well, otherwise famously known as overthinking. You know what it does to you. So I really don't need to dig into that much. So please try hard not to do overthinking. It will just damage your brain and waste your time and waste your space in brain, nothing else. What happens is, when I think I have reached my saturation point of work, I just change my type of work, or I just change my work. Well, that is my type of relaxation. Otherwise, I can just sit idle at home, read a book, or do nothing. Just take few rounds of sleep. Well, all you can do, but you have to change your work, because that's how you are more efficient at work. You have to, if you want to keep your brain constantly productive, then you should change your work style accordingly. You should change your work A from work B, then work C, then again work A, B, C. You invent your own pattern for yourself. That's all I want to say. Well, I'll conclude. Yeah, man. Do not oversaturate yourself. Keep on working, keep peace, stay healthy and stay happy. Otherwise, who knows? Your pressure cooker might just burst away.